Hi, so today what we're going to address is the very basics of eyeshadow application. You might think it's not much to learn about over there, but it's hell of a lot. It's actually the very foundation of how you would create eye makeup in the future. And these few steps that I'm going to show you will actually take you through several kinds of eyeshadow application in the future. But having said that, I know that as customers, as somebody that was just purchasing eyeshadows, people would choose two eyeshadows. But being professionals or being people that are interested in learning makeup and using it for your income, for your earning, there's so much more to learn about eyeshadow application, and you can't take it for granted at all. Even if you do the simplest of looks, which is what I'm about to do, I mean the very bare basics of eyeshadow application, there is technique to it. Having said that, you can go ahead and play, you can use your imagination, create mixes of colors, but there is a specific way in which you approach an eyeshadow application so it looks well blended, seamless and very attractive no matter what kind of design you're aiming for. So I'm going to start. The first thing that you need to keep in mind is brushes. Alright, again, several brands have several brushes and they all come in different forms, natural, vegan, whatever goes, whatever you feel like buying is absolutely alright. But as far as shapes are concerned, I think that's what the key thing is, and you have to give importance to the kind of brushes that you're purchasing, no matter from which brand. So this is a flat eyeshadow brush. I don't know if you can see it clearly. So that's a flat eyeshadow brush, all right? So this comes in synthetic and natural forms. So I'll show you a synthetic one as well. So these are often swapped. You could use these, as eyeshadow applicators as well. So these are also used for concealer, but they're great for eyeshadow. You get smaller versions of this also. For now, I'm sticking to this. So this is an eyeshadow applicator brush. All right. And these two are eyeshadow blending brushes. Again, this can be swapped for concealer blending as well. So it's largely the shape that you need to take notice of. These are blending brushes. If you can see, they are rounded, tapered, fluffy. These are great for blending. Now, there's two things you can do with all these brushes. This brush is ideal for placing or depositing heavy amounts of product. All right, this is great for placement, but this you cannot really blend with. As you can see, there's no ease of movement. It's very rigid tuft over here, so it doesn't help too much in blending. It's great for placement, very precise, and for layering. And I also tend sometimes to use this for smudging under the eye. So if you want to smudge, you can use the very, very pointed, rounded off edge to do the smudging as well. So see, you're in the very beginning of learning makeup, and I'm sure at this point not too much investment would go into brushes. I'm talking about these functions assuming that you'd buy one brush at a time. So this will double up as a smudging brush also. You can do that and you can apply. Okay. As for these two brushes, they're ideally just blending brushes. There's not much else you can do with them. But over the years, I have learned that these also layer very well. Okay, while you don't get the heavy deposit that this brush affords you, these you can add on. So layer upon layer upon layer, this is a nicer brush. One thing to know in eye makeup or makeup in general is less is more. So you start with less and build up is better. But if you start with too much, removal means you'll have to take it all off. The chances are very, very, very rarely that you can fix a heavy base and tone it down. It's easier to use little and build it up to the effect that you want. So in that context, these blending brushes are fantastic. All right, I'm going to get started. Now, here's something that's pretty universal in eyeshadow application, basic or advanced or intermediate, whatever level you might be at. So there's something called the intermediate color, all right, or a transition color. Now, transition color, let's talk about the eye itself. Now, the base is done on the eye. You can use a primer or concealer powder as you see fit. So once the base is done, you can see that the entire eye becomes one flat color. So the color of her skin, basically. Now, on a flat surface, you need the contours and the shapes to start reappearing on the eyes. So what do you do to achieve that? You start creating them. Now you never go in straight with a dark color to create your first contour. That's not really the way to approach an eye makeup. So in that context, what we do have is something called transition colors. So a transition color is almost the color of the skin, almost. Not darker, not terribly lighter either. So I'm going to start with a transition color. And as I mentioned in earlier videos, always clear out the lines because they're bound to appear if there's base on them. Don't worry about it. Once you apply the eyeshadow, they'll not reappear in your makeup. So you take a transition color which is not too deep, not too light, and start by creating the lightest hint of shadow where it naturally appears on an eyelid. So what I'm doing is placing, open your eye please. If you notice, I started placing the color in such a way that the eyelid starts reappearing or the crease starts reappearing. This will actually aid the shape, highlighting and contouring of your eyelid. So you go back and forth. See, we're not focusing so much on a shape, so to speak. Here I'm just teaching the basics of application. The reason I'm using this rounded brush is because I don't want this to be a stark application. There needs to be a gradation. So there you go. So it's more like a wiper, like a car wiper. So that's the kind of application. And one more thing you need to pay attention to is, if you see where I'm holding the brush. So if I hold the brush here like you would a pencil, what happens is the deposit becomes very heavy and you have too much control over the brush. Can you see what happens? It becomes almost like writing. Whereas as an artist, if you hold further off, past the ferrule, you have less control, which is actually good because it makes the application more diffused. So in blending, it's better to keep your hand off the ferrule, further off the ferrule. So it gives you a lighter blend. If you go closer, it gives you a tighter blend. So if you want very precise application, it's all right to go really close, so just place. But it's nicer to work from farther off, so you have more of a swing with your brush. And that will make all your eyeshadow blending really, really fantastic. So back and forth for the transition color. So it's given you the slightest hint of a crease. Now I'm going in with a warmer brown, which is deeper, or exactly her skin color, slightly deeper when you apply it actually. So I'm going to use this. It's a warm brown matte. Now I'll start building up, as you can see. So place the color in the corner. This will be your defining color. It's the color that contours your eye and shapes it. Don't start by adding too much. Repeat the same motion with your hand to about 2/3 of the eye, and you don't need to go right till here. This is actually to wrap the color that you actually want on your eyes. So this is your second basic step. Warm, deeper than the transition color. So this creates a more definite shape. And when you work it, you place the color, the deeper color you place outside, but you work it towards the inside of the lid. So basically it softly wraps the rest of your eyeshadow or eye makeup. Don't go in too heavily in the beginning because you don't know yet how deep or intense you want it to look. So the color that you apply here on the lid is the color, this is the key color of your eye makeup. So for now I'm choosing a skin champagne kind of color. It's just your base color, so to speak. Use a flat brush because this color is going to be the defining color of your makeup. You need to use it quite generously. So I'm going to use it with a flat brush and you'll see that the deposit is nothing like this. It's much heavier. So use it in the area that you've left untouched. And make sure that you, close your eyes, make sure that you don't take it into the area that you've contoured. The reason being, when you, especially with shimmers, especially with shimmer products such as this, if you took it past the area that it's meant to be, it will actually make the rest of your makeup frosted and you'll lose dimension to the eye completely. So you need to stop your key color along the curve of the eyeball, along the outer end of the curve of your eyeball. So let's apply this for now. We don't want to overdo anything at this point. You can always intensify after you've completed your basic makeup. Alright, so using the same brush that I used earlier and the deeper color, matte, I'm going to blend. If you can see, there's a definite separation between these two. I'm just going to blend that very lightly. If you notice, my hand movement is not large swipes. I've moved closer to the ferrule, so I have more control because this is more precise. So once you blend, close your eyes please. Once you blend, the demarcation shouldn't be too severe. It shouldn't ever look like one shadow is stopped and the next shadow has begun. If she turned her face and caught the light, it should be seamless. There should be a complete and continuous blend or gradation of color. Now, if you choose, you can intensify the color. Always starting at the outside, working into the insides of the eye. And of course, you can go the whole hog. You can make this as deep or as intense as you wish. I'm keeping it very soft. So once you have the basic application done, now's your chance to decide whether you want to intensify it or when you want to make it brighter. Well, just for added intensity, I'm going to put a dot of color, the warmer color. I'm going to bring that up a little more into focus. Just create a sharper contrast basically. So the thing to remember is that no matter what, if this was a colored eye even, so if you used gold along with a plum, or you used two colors, blue, a lighter blue, deeper blue, or a purple, just remember that a transition color kind of softens the effect of any eyeshadow application. It makes the gradation between the brow and the eyelash line look way more natural. So as a professional, that's the key trick in eyeshadow application. Well, you can take this as far as you please in terms of intensity, but I'm going to keep it quite soft and natural. But I would like some of the contours to be evident. So what a transition color often does is not only does it aid the gradation of makeup, it also acts as an eraser sometimes, especially in very deep colored eyeshadow application. So if you've noticed, there's always lines that normally tend to appear, especially if you're a complete newbie. You do tend to leave a lot of lines between the brow bone and the eyeshadow. Those lines are easily blended off using a transition color. So although you may not treat it as third color in the makeup, it is a very important part of an eyeshadow application. Anyway, wrapping this up, I see this as just enough for now. So I'm going to continue doing the other eye. A little note about highlighters. A lot of people do like wearing highlighters. I think it's quite a 90s trend, to be honest, especially with shimmers. But having said that, to each his own, and it's important to have a style that's your own. Even as an artist, if you have a style that you've adopted and that includes bright highlighters, it's all right. It's not a no-no, but having said that, it's important to learn where to place a highlighter. So in the context of very basic makeup, use it right under the arch of the brow bone. And work it softly, very softly, towards the edge. And what you might get this kind of a separation. Now you'll see the importance of a transition color. I'm taking a small dip. I'm going to just blend that off. So what happens is you lose that line and it all comes together really nicely and seamlessly. So here's a little note while I'm doing this and finishing up. I would never advise for you to use a highlighter all the way from here to here, because it then starts looking like a line. It's very stark and it kind of doesn't aid your eye makeup. Just use the highlighter where the light would naturally hit the brow bone, which is normally under here. Use a very gentle hand and try not to ever bring it here. So the focus is more towards the edge of your eye. Just to finish that off with the transition color. And remember, blending is key to any eye makeup. Now if at this point you feel the need to add a touch of this key color, you can do so by placing it very strategically on the part that naturally catches the light in your makeup. There you go. So once the basic eyeshadow application is completed, you should be able to see the two different colors, but the transition between the two colors needs to be very, very seamless. Almost like two colors were never applied separately. They should look like one. That's the finished basic eyeshadow application.